Hi YouTube, welcome to Pagan Perspective. I am Sabirasri, aka Megan, and today's Wednesday. Hi YouTube, so welcome to Pagan Perspective. We are continuing our gods and goddesses month and our deities. So the question this week comes from ZzombieduckK, and I'm not going to read the whole question. I'll post it in the down bar below, but basically it's asking about the definition of how we choose to title our time with the gods and goddesses and deities. So do we call it working with them? Do we call it worshiping? And so they kind of talk a little bit about where they're coming from and why they're asking this question. So pagan perspective time. What do I do? So I do both. I work with and I worship. So for me, the god and the goddess I worship, and all of the other deities, the lesser deities, the smaller ones, I tend to work with them. Elementals I work with, I don't worship. That's just sort of the way that it works. Ancestors are a little bit different. I call it veneration. So it's just another word for it. And it's similar to worship, but it's more about honoring. And so I like the terms honoring and veneration better than worshiping, because worshiping is really more of something where you're giving of yourself and bowing down, and that, if I needed to, I would do for the god and the goddess. However, the god and the goddess, the ones of my path and of my faith, would never ask me to do that. So it's a little different than Abrahamic faiths. You would never be asked to bow down in that way. So it's different. So that's basically the way that I see this idea of working with versus worshiping. I like to use honoring, veneration, those type of words to describe when I talk about the ancestors, because I do a lot of ancestral work that's very important to my path. And it's also important to my path that I do have a level of worship and a level of honoring the god and the goddess. And at the same time, I can also work with the god and the goddess, and I work with deities and lesser gods and goddesses, and elementals and various other spirits and fae and all sorts of things. So the idea is that I don't think it needs to be one or the other. I'm sure for some people it probably is, and that's okay. For me, this is just what my personal take is on it. I use it all. I work with, I worship, I honor, I venerate, everything. So I think that any time in which we have a path and we're following this direction, this journey in our life, it's going to take us in many different directions. And I think saying that we're only going to do one thing can be very limiting. And I know for me, I like to keep options and experiences and minds, everything open to the possibility of the extraordinary. I think that's kind of exciting. I like the idea of making my life extraordinary. And I think that everyone's definition of extraordinary is different. And as long as you are living up to your definition of extraordinary, then you've lived a life worth living, and a purposeful one. And the lesson that you needed to learn in this life will be set, and on to the next one to learn the next lesson, and hopefully eventually rejoin the divine. So that's how I view sort of that idea of worship and working with, and how it kind of sits in my head. I'm really interested to hear how you all think of it and what you tend to do in your practice. I know many people have many different takes on this, so I'm sure I am just one of many different possibilities, but I like using all the terms. I think it's important to have a nice plethora of options before you. So that's it for today. Guess next week is subs week as far as I know. If not, I'll see you next week, and if not, the subs will see you, and I'll see you the week after. So as always, guys, blessed be.